Reports are Egypt has rejected a humanitarian refugee corridor between the Palestinians and into Egypt. I want to explain why. There's a lot of misinformation as to why Egypt doesn't want the Palestinians. I'm seeing this circulating on social media. Egypt doesn't want the Palestinians. Nobody, the Arab nations won't take them. This is how bad and awful they are. They're so bad and awful that other Arab nations won't take them. That is absolutely not true. And I'm going to explain why Egypt rejects taking Palestinian refugees, why Arab nations reject taking Palestinian refugees. First, here is the tweet from Reuters saying Egypt has discussed plans with the United States and others to provide humanitarian aid through its border with Gaza Strip, but rejects any move to set up safe corridors for refugees fleeing the enclave, Egyptian security sources said. So people are like, oh my gosh, you got two different camps of people, right? One camp is saying this is terrible. These people have nowhere to go and they're just going to die in the Gaza Strip because Egypt won't reach out and give them humanitarian assistance by bringing in the refugees. The other camp of people say, well, see, look at how awful the Palestinians must be. They're all terrorists, so bad that even Egypt will not take them. In fact, I want to show you this tweet from Dave Rubin. We got into a bit of a back and forth on this. He says, when Israel bombs the F out of Gaza, which it should for however long it takes, remember that Egypt, which shares a border with Gaza, won't let one Palestinian in. Actually, they've bombed the border and flooded tunnels to keep their Palestinian brothers out. I did respond to this. This was just a few days ago, but I have more to add to this. This is just one angle of it. I said, it isn't because they don't want them, because they think they're awful people or whatever it is you're implying. It's because they know every single one of them, all 2 million, would rush into Egypt to escape the hell Israel created for them. No nation wants millions at their border clamoring to flood in, right? I mean, we have that problem with our border. We cannot take in all of these people. Egypt certainly cannot suddenly take in 2 million people. He then wrote, Kim, before 1967, what country was Gaza part of? Was that an occupation of Palestine? Israel didn't create the hell. Not one Israeli lives there, and Egypt has the blockade too. I'm implying exactly what I said. They don't want them, nor does any other nation. Maybe you want to invite a family to live with you instead of virtue signaling. There's never been a nation known as Palestine, and now there clearly never will be. I get as a leftist, you aren't very bright, but learn some basic history. So, I mean, I don't know why he had to insult me. But hey, he called me a leftist. I think he's the only person in the world who thinks I'm a leftist. Also, I'm an independent, by the way. I'm not, I lean left, I would say, but I'm independent maybe, but many people think I'm a big right winger. I don't know. I don't know why you said virtue signaling by saying bringing in, and I clearly said people can't handle the borders. So I'm not saying open borders, let them all in. So I don't know. It's just an emotional conversation, but let me break this down a little bit more. The idea that these other Arab nations don't want them is not true. You have to remember what this war is about. This war is about existence on the land. Israel wants nothing more than for the Palestinians to flee. They would love it because it would be a de facto win for Israel if every Palestinian packed their bags and ran into Egypt. Then what? The land is free and clear. Israel then has the land. Mission accomplished, war is won. Same thing with the West Bank. If you push them all into Jordan or push them all into these other Arab nations, that is what Israel wants. All of these Arab nations know this, and the Palestinian people know this as well. First of all, you're not seeing gobs and gobs of people at the Egyptian border. The Palestinians are not clamoring at the border trying to get into Egypt. They're resisting. Their way of fighting this war, obviously, you've got Hamas, and they've been able to get some rockets. But the vast majority of the Palestinian people, the way they view this war with the Israelis is that they are resisting by existing, by simply still being there on that land and saying, you do not get to take our land. That is how they're battling, just by existing, by still remaining there. So the vast majority of the Palestinians are not going to run off into other nations because they believe that part of the battle is just remaining still, standing your ground in your spot and saying, this land is mine and you're not going to steal it from me. So Israel wants nothing more than for these Arab nations to open up their borders. And let me tell you exactly what Israel would do in this instance. So what they want is they want Egypt to say, fine, we will take the refugees in. Israel would then start at the very top of the Gaza Strip, and they would start bombing. They would call the Palestinians. This time they would give them maybe the knock on the roof or the phone call saying, we're about to bomb you, get out. and they would start bombing row by row by row, starting at the top of that Gaza Strip, pushing the people, herding the people towards the Egyptian border. Meanwhile, carpet bombing and leveling the place, pushing the people closer and closer to that Egyptian border, bombing and bombing and bombing and pushing and pushing and bombing and pushing until all the people are at the border, at the Rafah crossing. And then what do? Then you start bombing the Rafah crossing. You start bombing them even more to get them to really run, get them to run into Egypt. And once they run into Egypt, because Egypt's opened up the humanitarian corridor, you're done. You've won the war. The people are gone. And in the process, you've leveled the place. You were going to build new buildings anyway. So you've done a bunch of land clearing, and now you're going to rebuild new buildings, and it's just the home for Israelis. And now all the Palestinians are gone. So many have asked a lot of these Gazans, why don't you go? Many of them say, well, for one, we can't. But if we did, would we be allowed to return? Can you guarantee that I would be able to come back? And that answer is no. There are refugee camps all throughout Arab nations, as it is right now, where Palestinians have been shoved out. They're living in refugee camps in Jordan or wherever in these various different Arab nations. And Israel will not take those refugees back. They're saying that they do not have the right to return to the land. They're not going to let them in. And every Palestinian knows this. They know once they leave, there will never be any coming back. So it is in Israel's best interest for Egypt to open up the border and to let the Palestinians in. They would love nothing more, and they would begin their bombing campaign to herd all the people across the border. Egypt knows this. So they've actually said, Egypt says Israel seeks to empty Gaza and rejects corridors for civilians. Cairo says it will allow aid to be delivered through its border to Gaza after closing it to civilians fleeing the war. One of the Egyptian security sources told Reuters news agency that Egypt rejected the idea of safe corridors for civilians to protect the right of Palestinians to hold on to their cause and their land. The Israeli occupation has sought throughout the conflict to try and resettle the people of Gaza in Sinai, adding that it was forcing Palestinians to choose between death or their land. So the Arab nations know this, and they're also in a battle with Israel. And they're saying, no, we're not going to take them. You have to come to an agreement with them. You need to give them a nation. You need to give them the land. You don't get to take it. So no, we're not going to unburden you from what you've been trying to accomplish for decades. We're not going to do it. And the minute we say we will, there would be an international push to move the Palestinian people, and Israel wins. So Egypt, they say, this is the president of Egypt. He actually gave a statement as well, and he says Egypt hopes for a resolution of the Palestinian cause through negotiations leading to a just peace and the establishment of a Palestinian state. So this is why. So when you see the social media circulating around and you hear this narrative of these Arab nations won't take the Palestinians, this is how bad the Palestinians are, they're such awful people that other Arab nations won't take them. For one, the Palestinians aren't asking to go. They're asking to stay. They want the land. They're fighting for their right to have the land that they believe is theirs, that they believe is being stolen from them. So they're not asking to go, for one. But two, the Arab nations say, yeah, you wish. You wish. You would love nothing more than for that outcome, wouldn't you, Israel? Then you get all the land for yourself and problem solved. So I just wanted to clarify exactly what is really going on there, what the truth is about the Arab nations or Egypt not accepting the refugees. What the real reason is for that is because they're saying to Israel, no, if you're going to bomb these people and kill them off, that is on you. And the rest of the world will watch in horror, and you will be condemned. And Israel knows this. You will be condemned if you do that to all of these people. So you're going to have to come up with a different solution other than eradicating them one way or another.